I invite you now to join me in the spirit of prayer, meditation, and reflection. These are the words of my colleague, Reverend Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of our living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit manifest in human voices and human hands. Remind us that we are not alone in our joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world to those around us. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse yet harmonious rhythm, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of our faith, and open our hands to join together to work to bring healing to this world. I invite you to join me in a time of silence. As we were setting up for this morning, Sebastian, who does a lot of the setups, and I were talking, and I was saying, "How are you feeling?" He goes, "I'm okay." I said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm tired." He goes, "Yeah, I'm tired too." And I think one of the things that's making me most tired right now is the news. Oops, I see some nods of agreement. I think I'll just leave the sermon right there. So. The news is tiring. And there's almost this repetitive, oh no, it can't get any worse, and yet it does. And that's exhausting. It's numbing. Because we see so much need in the world, and there's so much need in the world of things that we can't really do much about. Many of us for 3 years now have been devastated by what's been going on in the middle, well, longer than 3 years, but in Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Israel. It's exhausting, but we feel, what can we do about that? And then we see things in this country, which you think we would have some control over, and yet it so often feels we can't do anything about it, a feeling of powerlessness. And this month we're talking about compassion, and I was talking last week about the importance of self-compassion. And I realized I failed to point out something important about last Sunday's service, was that earlier in September for the water ceremony, we talked about the struggles that we had. And last Sunday's service was actually a response to that. We need to hold ourselves in self-compassion. We need to be very, very tender with ourselves, because life is overwhelming right now. And compassion fatigue which many of us have been struggling with perhaps for many years now, is amplified at this time. So we need self-compassion now and be tender with ourselves because there's so much we can't do. But compassion fatigue is often said as a lack of self-compassion. Compassion fatigue is a lack of self-compassion. And we often think of compassion fatigue as similar to burnout, but burnout's more a physical tiredness, just too much. Compassion fatigue's got this element of we are feeling so much pain in the world. We feel called to do something. Remember I said last week, compassion is we feel with someone and we want to alleviate that suffering. So there's a call to action with it. Whereas burnout is just, I'm physically tired. Don't think it's quite got that emotional component that compassion fatigue has. Compassion says, I am with you in your pain and I will help. I am with you in your pain and I will help. And that's got a whole different level of exhaustion, of fatigue. Because not only are you feeling emotionally in pain, you feel guilty because we can't help. And the author Andrew Boyd says, compassion hurts. When you feel connected to everything, you also feel responsible for everything and you cannot turn away. Your destiny is bound with the destinies of others. Compassion hurts. When you feel connected to everything, you also feel responsible for everything. But my colleague and friend, Reverend Meg Barnhouse, has got this wonderful story from when she was a waitress. And she learned that when your hands are full with 6 plates and you've got 8 orders in your head and someone asks you to do something else, her response was, honey, not my table. Honey, not my table. I think that's very useful right now. I wish I had only 6 plates in my hands. I wish I had only 8 orders in my head. And I think we're all carrying so much right now of all these things we want to do. Honey, it's not my table. But there are things we can do. And I invite you to think, what are you prepared to commit yourself to? And perhaps do regardless of being successful. I think sometimes Unitarian Universalists, our hope is grounded in being successful. And so many of the historically marginalized groups in our country, in our world, know that hope is grounded in the action that we do, not in success. Hope cannot be grounded in success. Hope needs to be grounded in righteous action. Now, we often quote Brené Brown here. I'm not going to quote Brené Brown. You've got to remember, she's a researcher. And her research says that the people who are viewed as most compassionate are those who put their boundaries around their compassion. Those who are viewed as most compassionate put their boundaries around their compassion. That's her research. So I think that's one of the antidotes to compassion fatigue, is that establish healthy boundaries for ourselves about what we are going to do and what we are not going to do. Establish self-practices that raise us up, that inspires us to hope, inspire us to take action. And the Christian minister, Reverend Nadia Bolz-Weber, says this: my discernment questions, and I use them every day, is what is mine to do and what is mine not to do? What is mine to say and what is mine not to say? And then the third one's harder because it feels callous. What's mine to care about? And what's mine not to care about? She goes on to say, that's not to say it's not worthy to be cared about by someone, but that we have to acknowledge the limits of our ability to care and respond to everything that's happening in our world. Not my table, honey. So each of us needs to do what we're able to do, what we've got energy to do. Perhaps all you could do was get here this morning. That's great. Perhaps some of you have got more energy to do something else. Some of us maybe need to rest. Remind ourselves that others in the world are doing the work, and celebrate them. Thank them. Let them know that you see them out there doing things in the world. Perhaps that's all we can do, but let us acknowledge those people who are out there trying to strive for peace, trying to strive for better healthcare. The teachers who are in the classroom teaching our children every day, even though they're just as distraught as we are about the state of the world. See them. Let them know you see them. Thank them. And celebrate them. Because we're all carrying a lot right now, and perhaps all we can do is let people know we see them. And one of the wonderful things about a religious community is there are people every day out there doing good things. There's people in this room who are every day out there doing good things. Celebrate them. Let them know you see them. I had a little bit of an example of this on Thursday. There was a San Mateo County Climate Justice Summit, and Peter Hartzell and I were both there. And it was great. It was really good. You saw all these different, there was government groups, Stanford University, there was a bunch of non-profits there, all doing great work, some of which are partners that we're working on. Now, there was issues there that were important that I've never worked on in my life. And I'm not going to work on them. But I'm really pleased that people were out there doing it. That was inspiring. I went up there and thanked people for doing that. There was a lot of stuff about water quality in East Palo Alto. That's not something I'm working on, but I'm really inspired by people out there working in that. So thank them, celebrate them. I know I left that conference, despite the struggles with climate that we are working on in this community, but is working on in the San Mateo County community. We know there's huge problems there, but I was inspired by both the large and big things that were being discussed there. So seek out news that inspires you. And it may not be NPR in the morning. I know we consider NPR the media wing of Unitarian Universalism. It's not. It's news. We can control what sources of news we take in. We can control how much news we take in. And that's more important now than ever. And then we also look at, like, who's going to be the target of our compassion? And there's an important element of circles of compassion, of where you provide care into those most impacted, and you dump out to those who are furthest from the impact. And there's certain people who get very upset about in behalf of someone else. That may not be the focus of our care. It needs to be those people who are most impacted, those historically marginalized groups, those neighborhoods like East Palo Alto that have historically been marginalized. That's where they need to be the focus of our care. Not the sole place for our care, but the focus of our care. North Fair Oaks in Palo Alto. But wherever there's been a long period of injustice, that is merits our care. That merits our focus of justice. And be boundaried on our energy in what we do. Because the golden rule of compassionate boundary making is we prioritize our relationships and not the people. We prioritize those relationships, not the people. That's the golden rule of compassionate boundaries. I'd like to close with the words of Jewish Rabbi Tarfon. It's not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. It's not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it.